Welcome back to the Mid-Year Mitch YouTube channel. In today's episode, we're comparing C2 Corvette core supports, which is right for your restoration, and which is right for your Restomod, so be sure to stick around. In front of me, I have 3 different core supports laid out here to talk about the differences between them. Believe it or not, I do get quite a few questions from customers as well as subscribers about which core support do I get for my car and how do I tell them apart. So first of all, let's start off. This is a 63 core support. This is a 64 and 65 core support. And this is a 66 and 67. So let's start at the beginning. The easiest way to tell a 63 apart is, first of all, it has a flat cross member across the top. 63 through 65 has a flat cross member across the top. And then you want to see these raised pads where if you look at the 64 and 5, you see it's flat and it bulges up here for the cross member. You can see the difference by the way that it is. So that's a 63. 64 and 5 doesn't have that. It's flat here, and again, it has the flat cross member across the top. Now, there is a different 65 core support, which we'll get to later. These are all small block core supports. Then this one, 66 and 67, we tilt it up. There's a little bit of a curve. I don't know if you can see it. If I lay this one on top of this one, and maybe walk around to the back. So if I lay this core support kind of over this one, you can see that this one has an arc to the top of it, which makes sense because a Corvette hood has a curvature to it. So also, from the back side, if you flip the core support up and we flip these two on their backs, we can see this is the pedestal that would fit your frame horn, the front frame rail. There'd be a cage nut in here, and you'd bolt this in place to your frame that way. See how long this pedestal is versus how short this one is? 63 to 65 has a short pedestal. 66 and 7 has a long pedestal. It also has a little pedestal here where this one is flat and part of the core support. The reason for this is because this core support fits in the car probably about at this angle, where 66 and 7, they leaned it back more. The reason they did that was to try to get a taller radiator in there, and it probably also just helped cooling. But these all bolt into the same car. They use the same nut plates. This is the same bolt pattern right here, the whole way across. So you can interchange all of these. So that doesn't really matter. But if you're trying to identify which one to put in, and if you're trying to get a radiator to fit one of these, you need to know that. All right, so now that we identified the different years, let's talk about the different options. So you could get air-conditioned or non-air conditioned. All 3 of these core supports are non-air conditioned, and I can tell you that because they all have an X in the center of them. This X wasn't in place for air-conditioned cars because the air-conditioned condenser would be on the outside where the radiator was on the back side. Now let's talk about the different engine options that you could have with your core supports. So this one here is a 63 non-fuel injected. This is a 64 and 5 fuel injected core support. You can see it has the big hole cut out here, and this is for the air plenum, the big S tube that would bring air up into the fuel injected unit. And that was 63 to early 65 could have this hole in it. Now, one thing I did learn, because this is a new old stock core support, is after a certain year, GM stopped making the non-air conditioned or the non-fuel injected core supports. They made them all fuel injected because you could put this core support in a car that was fuel injected or not fuel injected. It works for both. So they saved themselves from having to make 2 different versions of each core support, which was pretty smart. So if you see one of these at a swap meet, which pretty much every Corvette's a Carlisle show I've gone to, I've seen like 4 of these things. They're not particularly rare, but that's why. So it's not necessarily, generally when you think fuel injected cars, you think rare, expensive, valuable parts. This one, can be valuable and it's a good part to have, but it's not necessarily rare because this is the one they made for a long time. So all 3 of these core supports are for small block cars. The way to identify a small block and a big block core support is to flip it over and look at the mount for the radiator. So this one has just a little tab that comes off here that's kind of boxed in, and it's got a cup in the middle. The radiator would have 2 pins where a rubber bushing would go on it, and that slips into this hole. We'll look at this 68 Corvette in a second. It has a big block and it has that style. You can see this one also has the cup style. So if we walk over here to the 68, I'll bring that cover up a little bit. This is a 427, 435 horse car. We climb in here, and sure enough, you can see it has a saddle style mount, which is what 66 and 67 big block Corvette core supports would have. So if you see this mount on a core support that is this general shape with the curve in the top, that's going to be a big block 66 and 7 core support. If it doesn't have an X in it, it's an air-conditioned version, and it should be a little bit wider in the mouth just to get a bigger radiator in here to cool that big engine. Now, 65 is its own creature. Late 65s were 396 instead of the fuel-injected option. They're weird. They have this general shape of a core support. It has these mounts in it, but it has the top curved. So if it looks like this, but curved, then you know it's a 65 396. They're a little weird. And again, you can tell the difference between these two because of the pedestal here. So you kind of have to look at several different things if you're trying to, you know, pick one out at a swap meet. But that's the quick differences. If you're building a Restomod, you could literally go with any of these. I personally would recommend, well, you find the cheapest one and you hit buy it now. But you could also, I recommend going for the small block option, just because most radiators that are direct fit for a Corvette, because so many people are LS swapping Corvettes, they make direct fit radiators with fans and everything. I would just get the one that fits the small block. You're more likely to find that radiator. You're gonna have plenty of cooling capacity. You'll be fine. If you're comparing between these two, it really doesn't matter. Some guys like to get these because you can run a little bit bigger radiator, but you're really not gonna have an issue. So I would say just kind of take your pick between these two. 63 is also obviously a fine option. If you're building a 63, use a 63. If you're building a 64 or 65, sure. And so on and so forth. This is one that I'm going to use in that 63 tucked in the back. This one's going in the 65 Roadster I brought to Corvette to Carlisle. And this one is going to be used on the 67. So all three of them are going to be consumed here by building these cars. But that's just a quick and dirty run through. There are people that make aluminum constructed ones, which that's fine. There are people, and their Dynamic Corvette is making one out of carbon fiber. That's also fine. That's really expensive. And if you're building a car that's all carbon fiber or you're trying to save weight, I mean, these really aren't that heavy. Obviously, a carbon fiber piece is going to be lighter, and every pound counts if you're trying to go racing or something like that. But for a general Restomod, these are perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with any of these. And for as much as they cost, you're going to have to spend quite a bit of time to try to fabricate your own out of aluminum or steel or whatever. So just call up Kaufman. They reproduce them here in the United States, and they're beautiful pieces. So I guess that's going to do it for this core support walkthrough. If anybody has any other video ideas, let me know. But I got to get busy and put all of these core supports in their rightful cars. So I hope this video helped identify these core supports and hopefully helps you guys building Restomods out there. I have a lot of guys emailing me and asking me questions all the time, or they're building their own car with a Roadster shop chassis, and they're just trying to follow along and figure out what to do. So I'm going to try to come out with these videos to help you identify what parts you need for your car, because I don't feel like answering the same email like 80 times over. So this is a way to kind of give back to you guys, give you some information, and I can make some more content, hopefully help somebody in the process. And this actually came from the owner of the 63 back there. He was trying to figure out what core support to use, and I was like, that's actually a really good idea. I've been asked this question several times, so let's make a video on it. So that's what I'm going to try to do from here on out, is make videos off of stuff. There's a stink bug flying over my head. I'm just going to try to make videos of topics that people ask about that I am currently working on. I just happen to have 3 core supports that were of different styles at the same time, so it worked out that way. But if you guys have any other tips or things you want me to make videos on, let me know. I have other plans to make videos on Roadster Shop or Restomod content, just to try to help you guys who are building a car and just trying to figure it out in your own garage. I'll try to help you streamline that part and take some of the guesswork out. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. And I got a lot of work to do, so I'll catch you guys later.